survive that period of, and I don't know it's not photosynthesis, but I'm not sure the name of it, but that type of thing. And then it comes out to become this beautiful butterfly going to a movie line. All I heard was, "Look at me, I'm a pretty butterfly."
Coming to you from 125 Carver in Waco, Texas, it's the Riverside Weekly. We hope your time with us today is thought-provoking, spiritually challenging, and a life-changing experience. Our discussions are fun, real, and at times very uncomfortable. We highly encourage all of our guests and listeners to like and subscribe, and please ring the bell. Now, here are your hosts, Pastor Cello and Pastor Mia.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. It's Wednesday. There you go. That was a good one. I wish I had a horn, but I don't have one that does specifically that, and I'd have to do it myself. And we had one from Miles's birthday party, and my husband scared me with it, and I'm like, I don't want that kind of horn ever.
Well, you would think whatever season you're on now that you would have
bought one by now.
By now,
all right. So someone do some R&D and find us the
or sponsor it.
Yeah. Hey, you can mail that to 719 North 15th Street, Waco, Texas 76707. But because I don't have my little red box either.
125 Carver Avenue.
No one's ever here. No one is ever.
We don't get mail here?
We do, but the mailbox is like this big, and you can't stick a package in there. Yeah. Then the mailman has to chase us down, and, he's all mad at the dogs, and already he doesn't need to be mad at us. Shout out to Javier, the mailman. All right. Anyway, welcome back. We are so glad to be with you in 2023, and I told you guys things were going to be different and that we were going to add some new topics, and my cousin just so happened to submit a topic. See what happens when you submit a topic? If it's not a topic that I came up with, then I don't have questions about it. But if you submit the topic, you too could be on the podcast for free 99. So anyway, submit your topics this year so that we can talk about it, because I would love to have more than just my husband on the show. There are several people I'd like to have on the show. So if you're swinging through Waco and you want to record a podcast, please let me know, and you've got a topic, or text me a topic and I'll give you a shout out and be like, hey, shout out to the 505, because they're always on my mind. But anyway, love you, cousins. All right. What are we talking about?
Well, we are talking about boundaries.
Dun, dun, dun. If I had the evil piano, that's what that would be.
The suspenseful music.
Yeah. Yeah. Because boundaries are a very touchy subject.
Yes.
Which is why I didn't want to propose that, and I didn't want to talk about it. However, because 2023 is all about me. No, it's not, but I'm just saying that's what people are saying.
Right, because it's what people like to say, new year, new me. But what I've actually been saying is I actually think I'm quite enjoyable. So not that I don't need some tweaks here and there, but I'm, there's a lot of things that I am that I do like. So, but not necessarily that everybody else likes.
Right. And that is just actually going back to what I just said about in 2023. I'm going to do me. That's what everybody keeps saying is 2023 is me, right? Whether it's you're going to do you or new year, new me or whatever it is. Now, everybody is setting boundaries for themselves, which has never been a thing. Yes, people have said, self-care and all of that, but this isn't that. This is something completely different. So, and you...
Well, I actually think it all
goes hand in hand.
Yeah, comes together because, part of self-care is if you have healthy boundaries, then it is more about self-awareness, and in what, if you will, you're no longer going to tolerate. And that's the way that it has been for me, I was thinking because, with boundaries comes change, and change isn't something that's easy for everyone, you know.
Older people more
Well,
so.
you know,
Oh, babies
when
too.
you think of change, you know, you're like, kind of like what I was saying. Well, there was nothing wrong with the way that I am, so what do I need to change?
Yeah.
You know, but what you don't realize is that you actually do evolve.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that, you know, that is change, kind of like, you know, a caterpillar. You know, it has to go through the whole process before it becomes a butterfly.
You saw my painting?
Ooey gooey, messy, you know, and I think that that's what a lot of us are, and I think you go through the process multiple times too, right? But yes, I think it's an act of self-care.
Okay.
Whether it be, you know, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, you know, by setting boundaries and not allowing people to have access to you. You've, you know, create a space of
safe space,
warmth and peace is really what you're looking for, or in my case, you know, that I am.
I don't know that I would call it warmth and peace, because I have so many emotions going on right now and so many movie lines going on in my head. But warmth and peace is the correct verbiage for it. But when I think about it as an incubator.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So, you know, when you grow plants
or chickens
you have to have the light and the incubator to have a healthy plant or a healthy baby, or, you know, in the NICU type thing. And those things can thrive in there, and then it's when they can survive that period of, and I don't know it's not photosynthesis, but I'm not sure the name of it, but that type of thing, and then it comes out to become this beautiful butterfly. Going to a movie line, all I heard was, "Look at me, I'm a pretty butterfly." You know what I'm talking about? Bug's Life. And he's got like wings like this, but he's like this huge caterpillar. But really, that's what happens, is that we go through the process. And the reason I said, you saw my painting? My brother-in-law, when I was going through, and I don't know how many of you know this or not, because there may be some new followers on there, but before I was Carla, my full name is Mia Carla, and for a long time I went by Carla. And I always say that Carla was the evil side of my Gemini twin, you know, and Mia was the good side.
Yin and yang.
Yeah, and I remember praying and asking God to change me, because I didn't want to be that way. And I know my husband was praying for me, as well as other people were, you know.
All her children.
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone who knew me. And so as they were praying for me, you know, that began a work in me. And my brother-in-law painted this picture of a caterpillar for me, and the stages, and then when it turns into the butterfly. And that was Carla going into Mia. And I that painting is in one of my closets, because I don't want somebody, you know, to tear it up.
Right.
So I have it safe. But I always think of that process of change. Metamorphosis, that's the word. And I remember telling my mom and dad that no, because they were like, well, just tell them something. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. I need to change. And they were like, oh, no, you're good, just the way you are, just the way. And I'm like, yeah, because you're my parents and you have to say that, you know, type thing. But it was necessary for me to become the loving and caring pastor that I need to be. And not that I'm pastoring all the time, 24/7, but really we are. We're pastoring our friends and our people. And, you know, I ended up at Magnolia and pastoring a whole gang of girls, you know, and type of thing. So I think that process had to happen in that incubation period time of me being away from the world. I hate to say that.
You don't know.
But, you know, I had to draw some boundaries and say, I'm no longer going to tolerate that. I'm no longer going to tolerate that. You know, and y'all are going to laugh, because I don't think I've ever said this out loud. But I believe, because I used to yell a lot. Do you remember that? Okay. I believe, and it still happens to me to this day, y'all, this day. Thank you, Jesus. But anytime I remember asking the Lord to work on me, but when I would try to yell at my kids, I would instantly lose my voice. Instantly. I was like, so what did I do? I went to signing and I had to teach them sign language, because, yeah. And yeah, type thing. But I really had to teach them sign language and they had to learn because I was so mad, but I had no voice, none. And still to this day, if I try to yell, instantly it goes away. And I'm like, I got you, Lord, I got you. Type thing. But to me, and it could be mental, that's fine. But for me, it worked.
Uh-huh.
It worked for me.
It was the change.
Yes.
Yeah.
It
was necessary in order for that to no longer be what you did.
Yeah. Yeah. And I still think about it. But you made me think of the incubation, the incubator period. So
well, and seeing the way that I look at it, just because I like to farm and things like that, whether it be chickens or say, we're getting, going to be going into the spring, and so we're readying,
the garden.
Yeah, and you start seedlings, inside, in soil underneath plants, and then by the time spring comes and it's time to plant, you have a hardy seedling that you can now transplant from inside to outside to where it's out in the garden where it's getting the rain, the sun, and it's growing stronger and growing roots down, to hold itself and be able to withstand, maybe not the animals that come and search for it,
Yeah.
which I've learned also to plant things in my garden that
they can eat.
Yes, and then I still have, as well. So.
Listen, I'm going to give y'all a 10th of that, okay? God, you see.
Yes, because you have to leave some for, it's not all about, you. So.
Well, it is about you, but about you being healthy.
Well, right.
And
but also, not so self-involved
selfish.
And, that you're not caring for the other person, but it is, I think the season that, you and I have been talking about that we have come to, that we're in now, is that, we've just poured and poured and poured into this, into that, without having it reciprocated and poured back into us, that you become empty.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And a dry plant is no good to anyone.
Right. I mean,
the roots dried up,
exactly. And so then there's either it withers, right? Because there's nothing, or you say, okay, I can no longer give my portion to you and my portion to you and my portion to you, because there's 4 of you and me, so then there's only 4 portions, and then I'm the one that's empty. So.
I used to tell my husband all the time, everybody wants a piece of me, and there's only 1 of me, and y'all want to divide me by 6, and there's 1. I can't. It cannot happen. Otherwise, I won't be able to survive. Right? Same thing.
And it is. And I think when we start to create those boundaries and for ourselves, it looks different to people on the outside, and they look at it as, stuck up or snobbish, or what.
Oh, you think you're better than us?
What did I do? Start questioning. Is it something that I've done? And it's like, I'm no longer gonna allow you to make me feel guilty. For my feelings. You see it this way, but it's not that way at all. It's just a matter of, protecting myself, not, and it's not that you're building a wall, because that's not what you're doing. You're just putting a parameter around you to where.
We call that, what do you call it? Space. What do you say? This is my space, my safe space.
It's like social distancing.
Yes, yeah. And honestly, really, if you look at it that way, social distancing did cause that because we were apart from each other, except for those that were closest to you in your own home. And I think it made a lot of people reevaluate how they were doing life. And then when we saw, I say this almost every podcast, but I love the movie Surrogates because Bruce Willis, and because they are social distancing because they all stay in their homes and they're wearing these VR goggles, right? And they go out. It's almost like in the metaverse, and so everybody goes about their life in their little costumes or whatever, their little shells, right? And at the end of the movie, the internet goes down and they all come out because they're like, what? And you can tell they hadn't had baths. They're all in robes. They don't care about makeup or anything like that because they've been social distanced so long. And the one person that didn't want to be a part of that, he had already realized that before everyone else did. You don't need to be a part of that. You need to live your life so you can enjoy it.
Yeah, quit inviting yourself to things that you weren't asked to be at, or your hesitation is an answer that I'm not wanted, and learn to take those cues, but not, you don't take them and be offended by it. Take it and spend the time with yourself, just, it's like, I was telling Wes today, I came home from work and it was a beautiful day, and I was like, I could get inside. I had, chores that I needed to do. Not that I wasn't going to do them, but I was like, when the sun goes down, then you have plenty of time to do those chores. Yeah. And so I sat outside and I read a book, and I went and I was on the swing, with the chickens, and just watching the world pass by, and closed my eyes, and I could hear the woodpecker, opened my eyes, I could see the redbird, just in the quiet, just listening to what was around me, and in my own space, and then time got away from me, right? And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I need to start cooking dinner, there are some obligations that I have, but I just, I was thinking about just different relationships that I have, be it with family, with friends, and you go quiet, and people start, hey, they start peeping, is what I call, hey, and it's like when I was pouring, into you and giving you the attention and all of the things, you were taking me for granted, and now that I've put some distance between us, and now that I've gone quiet, now I have your full and undivided attention, but, and it's not, it's kind of what I told a friend of mine. I'm like, staying in my lane, I'm refilling my cup. It's not anything towards you. It's all about me, like you said, and not, I'm not being selfish. It's what's needed, and it's not, forever, or if you will, but it's for the time being,
it's a season.
I'm being, I'm doing what's necessary for me, to be at peace, to have a clear mind, to have a clear heart, and I, find myself, just, whether was like, I'll just be laughing, all of a sudden I'm just laughing, and he's like, what? And I was like, I just thought of, this or that or another. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, it's, it's still funny to me. I'm just reflecting upon it.
Yeah, reflecting. That's a good word. That's a good word for this year, because I would say that's probably what everybody needs to do. And, yes, in 2023, it's all about me, or in 2023, 2023 and me, whatever it is that you're saying for that time, I say reflect. Reflect back at some of the things that you were already doing, and say, what are some of the things I miss doing? What are some of the things I used to do that I don't do anymore? What are just those type of things. I think really when it comes to New Year's resolutions and New Year's new me, I think that's a time of reflection. For the service that I did for New Year's, I really felt in my heart that everyone needed to write a letter to themselves, because we don't do that. We don't talk to ourselves. We don't talk to God. We don't sit and have conversations over tea. We don't sit and have a conversation with somebody because we're so busy going. And I read something that said late night conversations are when people are most vulnerable because they're sleepy. That's when they're most honest, because they're sleepy. Isn't that crazy?
Well, I mean, it is crazy. You said when they're sleepy?
Mm-hmm. It's because they're sleepy that they become more honest.
Because they're not thinking about what they're going to say. And if I say
and
this...
what do I got to do next?
Yeah, if I say this, then this person's going to be upset. Or if I don't say this... And a lot of times I think we don't say things because we don't want to engage.
Oh, yeah.
But I think a lot of times that's the wrong thing. We should actually engage. You should... I mean, there's times where keeping the peace is important, but then that also wears on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and then not only that, it gets misunderstood.
Oh, yeah, misinterpreted.
Yes, misinterpreted as acceptable.
Yeah.
You know, and so then when you finally do say something, then it's like, what,
You've never said that to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
Are you holy?
Yeah. I have established some boundaries, and people don't like that. They like to be able to walk over you.
I wanted to read something to you that it was a devotional that I was doing. It's called Boundaries, Get Off the Crazy Train.
Ugh, badly.
So it says, why do we allow people space in our lives that don't promote healthy relationship habits? We think boundaries are mean and that it's unchristian of us to set some rules of engagement. So we stress out, we act out, we lash out, and then we miss out on peace. And often we find ourselves giving empty threats or cutting people out of our lives until we feel guilty. So we let them back in, and the crazy train goes around the same track over and over again. Sound familiar?
Yes.
In the beginning of the Old Testament, we see God repeatedly set up specific boundaries all around their tribes, their land, their homes, and their people. Those boundaries provided protection. They provided a way to make a living. Boundaries were the people's inheritance, their promise and gift from God.
Okay.
Some of you are really understanding how much of a gift a boundary could be, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you start setting boundaries, you can say they are gifts from God with a big smile, of course. In Joshua 14, after the boundaries of the land had been set up, it says, then the land had rest from war.
There you go.
That's a word right there. Are you exhausted from battling others? Do you feel like you need some rest from relationship wars in your life?
Ooh, ouch.
Satan uses our lack of boundaries to create chaos, stress, and unrest, which robs us of the peace of God. What areas in your life right now are missing the peace of God because of chaos and stress?
Every part. No, I'm just kidding. Not mine, but mostly, like I said, if we don't reflect, then we can't change anything. We have to reflect on those things and then start setting some boundaries.
It says, God shows us how important it is to provide boundaries for us and our family. He shows us how important our family is and how important our own space is. He's given us boundaries to protect us and provide room for His presence. We have to learn how to say no to people and yes to God.
Amen.
Do you feel like you and God have your own space? Today, start praying for wisdom for where God wants you to set boundaries.
Wow. Again.
So, it's about, it's one thing if you're just, separating yourself from everybody because you're just, fed up or, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're not taking that time and actually bonding, and seeking God and being in His presence, then you'll still have an empty cup.
Yeah.
And you'll all this time will have gone by, and then you'll be lonely, you know. But if you take the time, you know, set the boundary, and then, you know, spend time, you know, just worshiping, or, you know, just acknowledging all of the goodness that's in your life, you know, and then you can see more clearly, you know, it's not that you have to distance yourself and stay distanced, you know, it's just
for a time,
for some clarity, you know, in what exactly, you know, you're bringing or you're not getting, you know, and then, you know, being able to find the words to have the conversation.
Hey,
the
you know, uncomfortable conversations.
You're taking this personally, you know.
When really you shouldn't. Right. You should see it as, I'm really trying to be healthy so that I can help you be healthy. And that's really good, a good place to be. I just think that, again, just going back to that word, reflect on what you've done in the past and the things that you want to change, because you can't focus on things you can't change. Right. You can only focus on things you can change. Right. And one of those is setting boundaries. Yep. What are you choosing to cut out, and that's been holding you back, you know, and holding you down? And what's going to bring you some peace?
Or what is it that you're choosing to now say, but also how are you saying it?
Oh, yeah, that's huge, you know,
because
very huge.
You're trying to not have conflict, even though oftentimes the conflict is necessary, right? Yeah. And you get to the heightened and to the heat of it, you know, to where everything's been said, you know, and even if it's ugly, you know, but now it's all out on the table, and you can start to heal. Yeah,
my husband always says that, well, tell me how you really feel, you know, but that has to happen. It needs to all come out, but at the same time, it needs to be civil. It needs to be civil. It needs to be adult, not a 2-year-old throwing a fit, especially if you're not 2 years old. You know what I mean? And it needs to be, okay, God, how would you want me to say this? How would you want me to respect their person, but still stay within my boundary?
Right, because and then also what you're saying, that not as a 2-year-old, because your 2-year-old is watching, your 14-year-old is watching. Yeah. Everybody's watching how you respond, how you react. You know, and that's what teaches them what's okay and what's not okay. Yeah. And oftentimes children are better at it than adults
because they don't think. Yeah. They don't think about it. They just say it. And then they're like, what? What did I say? What did I do?
And after they say it, they're okay. Yeah. Like, okay.
Okay, I said it.
Hey, you want to come outside and play?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go get some ice cream.
Yeah. So
we're best friends now. Let's go get some ice cream.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you will set some boundaries for this year and establish some new lines, some hard lines that are going to be hard to cross for other people to see too, because that's a really touchy thing. And, you know, you can't just come up with them just because you're throwing a fit. Okay. You really need to seek God and say, what are some things that I need to cut out of my life, God, because you're not in it right now, because I've left no room for you.
And understand that there are also going to be relationships that are severed. You know, you'll have that realization.
I hated when that happened.
You know, and so it's not going to be an easy thing, but it's necessary.
Yes, and you know that's so true, because going from being a children's pastor to a senior pastor, it's not that, you know, we were so holy that we needed to be on a pedestal and we needed not to be around anybody, but if you're not a senior pastor, there's some things you can't relate to us. You know what I mean? Yep. So we had to set up boundaries for that so that we could pastor, but then so that we could be pastored as well, you know? So we had to figure out that, and that took a year, you know, or so. So
and I'm probably still figuring out different things, because again, with seasons comes change, and so you have to make adjustments.
So just so you know, spring's coming. So we need to plant those seedlings and get them growing in your house. Yep. Right?
Incubate them
now, so that they can be ready to plant when the next season comes. Yep. Right?
So someone else can harvest from it.
Hey, amen. All right, well, thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next week. Love ya.
Thank you for listening to the Riverside Weekly. Download the Riverside Waco app to stay connected and follow us on all social media sites at the Riverside Waco. This podcast is made possible by the givers of Riverside Community Church. Production and engineering provided by Capital G and RTV in Waco, Texas.